So here in chapter 3, there is um, a I'm going to call it a bunch of materials on how it is that the internet works, and all of that is absolutely, positively good in understanding just how it is that all of these consecutive miracles that probably today we would never really have an opportunity to do something like the internet anymore. It would go something like this. There would be a boardroom someplace, and a bearded academic would walk in just off of his medicinal interlude for the day, and he would say, I have this fantastic idea. We have developed a system of free interchange of thoughts and ideas that nobody owns, that is outside of the ordinary way that people can monetize things, and we really hope that it brings education and communication to people who otherwise would have been shut out of that. And then C. Montgomery Burns would have gone under the table and hit the free thinker button, and that team of scientists would have been fed alive to a grinder someplace. They would have taken that idea, and we would all be spending even a more exorbitant amount per month to have access to the internet. The thing that I just want to highlight here that is in the text that doesn't always make it through without a very, very careful reading is that we understand the internet as a consumer. We understand the internet as what it is that our devices can connect to, right? So I'm recording this off of an iPhone. It is going to here onto an iMac. It will go to, it's behind me, it's on this side, right here onto an iPad sometime. It'll stream here to multiple televisions. It's my man cave, so I have multiple televisions and it's okay. But at any rate, how the internet can connect to all of those. And let me just mention that there are many, many layers of devices that you as a user never really get any exposure to, but are drastically, drastically important. There are switches and routers and servers and things of that nature, but the general gist of how everything works on the internet is as follows. Your device is going to make a request, and that request is going to be, and I'm just going to squint at that. There's a lot of complexity here. I'm just going to say, let's say loading a web page. And your device is going to make a request of that web page. And that request is really very, very small. There's not a lot of data in that request. And that request is broken up into a bunch of really small little pieces. And those little pieces include data like your IP address, the unique one of essentially phone number for the internet, which says this device and this device alone is making this request. So your IP is in there. Your general location is in there. Your internet service provider is in there because that's the route along which that data will come back to you eventually. And as it goes out over the internet to connect between you and that website, let's say rockvalleycollege.edu, and be a total homer here about it. So as it connects between me and rockvalleycollege.edu, it leaves my household and it goes over my internet service provider's connection to one of their switches or routers. And both of them do essentially the same thing for what we need to understand. A switch is going to do more traffic related things. So like which one of these requests can be made in the shortest amount of time, which one of these requests has been waiting here the longest. And a router will actually determine the route. What is the best way for this piece of data to travel through the internet to these, hundreds of thousands upon millions of switches and routers and cell towers and all sorts of other intermediaries to get the data to where it needs to be. Sooner or later, it gets to our host, rockvalleycollege.edu, and then we get to serve back to you the page content. Now the page content is way bigger than the first request is going to be. And here's where it gets to be kind of neat. The request can actually be broken up into a lot of different pieces and sent to you throughout the internet. And it's entirely probable that your request was, shot all over not just the Rockford area, but really the Midwest in transit between rockvalleycollege.edu and you making that request at home. Even if you're at Rock Valley and you're making the request for rockvalleycollege.edu, it has to go out over the wider internet and come back in order to be, displayed on your machine. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening in there. What I would really point your attention to is the idea that, one, there's billions upon billions of nodes. And nodes are just things that can connect to the internet. So I'm looking at hundreds of nodes here in my office. I have a webcam that is actually a webcam. So that can go out over the internet. My phone out over the internet. 2 Macs right here, out over the internet. The devices behind me, out over the internet. So all of those are nodes, and those we can, tangibly touch. We can actually get a hold of. The important things out there, though, too, are routers and switches and servers and other things like that that we don't get to see, that do a lot of the heavy lifting there. So really, the internet, as we understand it today, could not be a product of today. It really did need an entrepreneurial, a egalitarian, freaky deaky kind of generation of people who wanted everybody to have it, to democratize everything, to make things more level and fair. Because if the internet came about today, we would monetize it in a way that is far grosser than what we even see now with how we use the internet to monetize things.